Welcome to Off the Record News. I'm your host, Diana Longrie. Thank you for tuning in. Off the Record News is brought to you live from the SCC studios out of White Bear Lake. And through a cooperative agreement, this program also simultaneously broadcasts live to those studios in the Roseville area, the CTV studios. As a result of this cooperative effort, this program reaches out to and serves approximately 28 communities in the Northeast metropolitan area. And of course, we do rebroadcast this program, so if you're watching it on a date other than November 9th, well, please don't call in because we won't be here. But if you are watching today on November 9th, we invite you to please call in and be part of our discussion, because that is what makes this show part of the community programming that it is. Now, we also rebroadcast in other communities, and so for those of you who tune in and watch us in St. Paul on Monday evenings at 8 o'clock, well, I welcome you. And for those of you who tune in the town square area out of the Mendota Heights, Inver Grove Heights, West St. Paul, and South St. Paul area, well, I welcome you on Thursday nights at 7. And we're very fortunate that this program eventually will find its way also into the Woodbury area. And with that in mind, I want to welcome those viewers who will have the opportunity of watching us in Woodbury. And we really appreciate the fact that those folks in the Woodbury area are able to get this program on, because we're going to be talking about something that's going to be, well, certainly up and coming in the Woodbury area. Next year there's going to be some concerts coming up, but we want to be talking about the Minnesota Brass, because they've been on this program before in the past, but they have won some awards, and it's quite an amazing thing. And so I have with my guests, my guest this evening, Scotty Wild, who's been here before, and I also have Eric, let's see here, Molho. Okay, very good. And with that, I want to welcome both of them. So thank you, Eric and Scotty.
Thank you so much for having us tonight.
Yes. Now, for our viewers who maybe haven't heard of the Minnesota Brass, we're going to talk a little bit about what the organization is, what it's all about, how long it's been around. But first, before we do that, I'm going to have each of you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, and so they have an idea exactly who's Diana's guest this evening. So Eric, I'm going to start with you.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Diana. I'm Eric Molho, and I'm the Executive Director of Minnesota Brass. I will be starting my third year in the 2012 season as Executive Director of the Corps, although I've been with the organization since 2003. I started as a performing member, as a marching member, and performed as a baritone player for 2 years, marching on the field. And then I thought it was taking a little bit too much time, so I thought I'd get involved in administration, which turned out to be just the opposite. I wound up over the years spending more and more time with the Corps because I liked it so very much. Spent 3 years serving on the board of directors, and now I'm in the role of executive director, and it's just been absolutely wonderful being a part of Minnesota Brass.
Excellent. Well, I'm very glad that you're here this evening, so you can tell us a little bit more about what the Minnesota Brass is all about and what it's up to.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Yes, and Scotty, please reintroduce yourself to our viewers this evening.
Thanks again for having us on the show again, Diana. My name is Scotty Wild. I'm on the board of directors of Minnesota Brass and have been associated with the Corps since 1987. Started out as an instructor, moved on through as a representative for Minnesota Brass in sponsoring drum and bugle corps contests. I've been involved in this particular activity, drum and bugle corps and marching bands, since 1955. So it's been, you can tell, we've been with this activity for many, many years, and we enjoy it so much, particularly Minnesota Brass, now that we have coveted the World Championship, which we garnered here this past Labor Day, and Eric will tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, for our viewers who maybe haven't really heard about the Minnesota Brass, but would like to know more about the organization, let's tell our viewers and share with them a little of the history, because obviously this organization has been around for a very long time, and it really serves a good purpose in this community.
Absolutely. Minnesota Brass has actually been around for 65 years. We celebrated our 65th anniversary in 2011. The Corps has had a number of different names. Scotty might be able to tell some of the history better than I can. Started off as a traditional marching drum and bugle corps, and drum and bugle corps in the United States really came to light after the war. A lot of VFW posts and American Legion posts would sponsor drum and bugle corps as a way for the neighborhood kids to have something to do after school and stay off the streets. And it has just continued to evolve through the decades. And now drum and bugle corps is its own unique art form. Probably if you haven't seen a drum and bugle corps show, it's most like a marching band show. We sometimes call it a marching band on steroids, because there's just so much movement and so much volume that these organizations produce. But our group has evolved over the years, and now we include 4 different performing ensembles, which we're very proud of. Our flagship ensemble is the Minnesota Brass Drum and Bugle Corps, which is comprised of 128 performing members. They range in ages and careers. We have a lot of college students, a handful of high school students, and adults of all ages who are passionate about drum corps and passionate about playing and marching. And we have 3 other marching ensembles as well. We have an indoor drum line, which is an organization of just drums, and they perform on like a high school gymnasium floor. And we have a winter color guard, which is just the color guard performing indoors on a high school gymnasium. And then our 4th ensemble is called Mini Brass, that's M-I-N-N-E Brass, and they perform on the stage. They're a complete brass and percussion ensemble, just a smaller version of the full corps. So we've continued to grow and evolve, and have really come to a great place in our history over the last few years.
Well, in listening to you, there were a couple of things that I guess I hadn't really quite thought of. And when you were talking about in the initial early years that, the sponsorship by the VFWs and the importance of that they felt there was to having that sponsorship of these drum and bugle corps to, I think you mentioned, to basically keep kids off the streets. And I find that so fascinating, because I have found actually a couple of different people in the St. Paul area who are today have their drum and bugle corps. It's more of urban drum and bugle corps, and they're going to be coming on in future shows and talking about the work that they're doing in the inner city of St. Paul, and using exactly this idea, this concept of having drum and bugle corps, of having the kids involved in that and being exposed to music and learning discipline and having a passion for something other than getting into trouble on the streets. And so I find that very interesting that, that it's founded in that history, and that still has a very valid thread today.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And Scotty actually was a member of the Cavaliers from Chicago, and he was one of those tough Chicago kids who wound up marching. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that period in drum corps history.
Yes, Diana knows this history. We have already talked about this. Running the streets of Chicago as a child and up through teenage years, early teenage years, and I finally joined the Cavaliers, which was a up-and-coming nationally prominent corps at the time back in the 50s. And I got in a little bit of trouble, and as a result, I was called in by the director of the Cavaliers. He said, you have a choice. You could stay with that gang, or you could play with the Cavaliers, and I made a good choice. I stayed with the Cavaliers, and the rest is history. But as you were talking about that also, I could be reminded that statistically, you get kids involved with music. Statistically, kids that are musicians ultimately, or play a musical instrument, do better with their grades, they're better with discipline at home and in school, their graduation rate is higher, their college continuance is higher. So I mean, statistically, it's just a fantastic thing for a kid to get involved in music. Well, drum and bugle corps is a great opportunity. It's all front brass instruments, and I can't say it's easier to play than a violin, but in some cases we might say yes, it would be.
Right. And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to mention how that's evolved now. We're probably all familiar with the challenges many of our public schools are up against in terms of funding, and certainly arts programs have continued to be challenged in many of our schools. And so an organization like Minnesota Brass is one of the ways that as a community we're able to fill that gap and provide that music education. But we've also found that we have a unique niche to fill in helping music educators become better at their craft. You know, if you think about all of the small marching bands across the state of Minnesota, hopefully every small town has a great marching band that they're proud of. But marching band isn't always a part of the curriculum that you take as a music teacher in universities. And so it's not uncommon for young music teachers to find themselves responsible for a marching band and not have actually marched themselves. And so we have a number of members who are music educators, who are people who are going to go and wind up teaching a marching band or leading a marching band in their community, and it really helps to continue to fill a niche that is challenged in a lot of the schools and also challenged in the music education curriculum.
And I think one of the things that certainly viewers have come away from before when they've watched a program about Minnesota Brass is it's an opportunity for folks who have a love of playing their instrument and of music, but you know, they've maybe gone on to other jobs, other professions, and they need an outlet to be able to still play their instrument, to be part of a musical group, part of a community where music is very important. And this gives them that avenue to do that.
That's absolutely right. And you know, one of the interesting things about our membership, I mentioned we have a lot of college-age folks. Well, we also have a lot of folks, you're my age, Diane, and it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Folks who maybe have been away from their instrument for a while, or they've been busy raising their kids, and now they have an opportunity to do something they want to do, and so they come and they participate in Minnesota Brass. One of the things that's unique about our organization is it is an all-ages organization. And I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, but there's sort of two circuits, if you will. It's sort of like the golf, the PGA, the senior and the regular PGA. Well, in drum corps, there's the junior drum corps, which have an age limit of 22 years old, and then the all-age corps, which are corps like us, which allow people of any age to participate. And where I think that's really cool is we wind up with every season some father-daughter, father-son combinations who are doing this on the field together, marching together. This past year, as Scotty mentioned, just an incredible season for us, and I think we had 3 different pairs of parent, son or daughter, and a couple siblings who are able to actually march and perform together. And that's just really exciting to see, something that there aren't a lot of activities where you can come together across the generations and continue to participate like that.
That's really good. I probably could throw in something like the family that plays together stays together.
Absolutely.
Now, we've been telling the viewers that you won this big award.
Yeah.
So let's set it up and tell them a little bit about, the competitions, first of all.
Okay.
How are the competitions set up? And then we'll kind of move from there into the competition that you won the award at.
Great. Well, this is a little unique concept. Sometimes people have a hard time wrapping their head around art form and competition, and is it music or is it sport? And we love that. We love that it's both. And our goal is to take the very best of competition to make us better, to push us further, while leaving some of the painful aspects of competition behind. But every time we perform our full show, it is in fact a competition. And so there are 6 or 8 judges, depends on the show, who are evaluating everything we do on the field. And Scotty is a judge and can tell us a little bit about what exactly that's like, but some of the judges are evaluating the music, how well we're playing. Some of the judges are looking at the horn line, some are looking at the drum line, some are looking at the color guard, some are way back in the stands and they're trying to see all those formations on the field and make sure they're sharp and crisp and clean. And as you go through the season, you get a better and better sense of how well you're doing against your competition. And this past year, as we headed to our championships, we knew we were getting very strong scores. We knew what our competitors were getting in terms of their scores. So we were feeling like we had a real shot at winning the championship this year when we headed out to Rochester, New York. Yes,
that's very great. And now, Scotty, you have, as a judge, you've talked a little bit before and previously about you know, what it's like to judge the competitions. But I think it would be well worth it to talk a little bit more about that and talk about, you know, really what is it that you look at when you're doing, you know, how do you score something that sounds so subjective? Because it's all in the eyes of the beholder, isn't it?
That's right, but there are objective ingredients that they're looking for also, and they're well schooled. The judges come with a plethora of information and experience and schooling all through time, and they judge often all around the country. And again, as Eric pointed out, there is a brass judge. He looks just at the horn line, and he looks at articulation and harmony and the melody, and he determines what's in tune and what's the good timing and all the other ingredients that take place with the horn line. The same thing with the drum line. And the drum lines are not just, as you know, most folks think of a trap set, you know, a sitting down, a rock drummer. In this case, we have 9 snare drums, and we have 5 quad tenor drums, and we have 5 bass drums, and we have 5 cymbal players, and then we have what we call a front line, which is all the keyboard instruments, marimbas and xylophones and timpani and everything, and that's all up on the front sideline. So this whole section, the drum section, comprises about 35 folks. And so there's one specific judge looking at them really uptight and determining is everything together and all that, all the things that we know and love. Then we have another judge up in the stands, up in the press box, looking down at the overall general effect of the drum line and the overall general effect of the horn line. And then we have somebody looking at the visual show, the marching portion of it. You know, it stops and starts and straight lines and intervals and all those types of ingredients. So there's 8 judges looking at different pieces, and they have so many points that they're responsible for, and it's all build up. It's not, you know, it's not 100 points per caption, so to speak, and then you knock it down. It used to be that way years and years ago, but now it's all build up. How close can we get to 10, the perfect 10?
I see, and I can see where there would be a difference in how your scoring would work depending upon whether or not you start at 100 points and start knocking things off,
right,
versus, well, we're starting at the bottom, and then, oh, because that was good, you get this,
right,
and you keep adding on.
Exactly.
Interesting. Interesting.
It's one of the first questions I always get when I bring somebody new to a drum corps show. They'll see somebody drop something. One of the color guard members will do a twist and they'll drop it, and my friend will say, "Do they get a point deducted for that?" And as Scotty said, in the old days you did. That's
yes,
how it went. Every time you made a mistake, you got a little tick, they called it. And now it's not directly, but boy, if everybody's dropping one of those, then that's having an impact on the show, and
right,
we don't want to see that happen.
Exactly.
And so it'll impact your score that way.
Exactly, and there's really a lot of choreography that's
yes,
put into a production, because yes, not only are you having to watch how you're playing your music, but there's also the choreography of how you are moving together individually or together as a team. So again, that goes to that issue of discipline and teamwork. So you have to do what you got to do as an individual, but then as an individual within the team, you need to really coordinate with everybody else.
One of the things we talk about when we teach the show and when we're working with our members is that they have multiple responsibilities. You have to be playing your instrument well, you have to be marching, as you say, and holding your own posture correctly, and then you have to be aware of where you are within the form and everybody else around you. So you're constantly trying to really do at least 3 things at once. You know, you mentioned the choreography, Diane, and one of the ways that drum corps has really evolved has been the addition of choreography. It really started in the color guard, which used to be kind of a traditional Big Ten straightforward lines kind of thing, and more and more the color guards introduced different equipment, they introduced dance, they introduced all sorts of what felt at the time very controversial aspects to the activity, but they have really evolved. And our color guard members right now, we require them to have dance experience. They have to be able to spin a flag and to spin a rifle and do all of that. And that's now spread as well even into the horn line or the drum line. So I think in a little bit we'll be watching some of the show, and one of the fun things to see is how the members, the core members, the brass players and percussion players, they also now are being asked to do more dance movements and body movement and take on poses and take on characterization. They're not just standing straight and marching in a straight line the entire time.
Exactly, and it really is an art form. And takes a lot of energy, because when you think about how you have to maintain your muscles in a certain way to keep it choreographed and do this and that and everything else, that's a lot of work, that's a lot of energy, and it could be very physically demanding. So not only do you have to be really skilled musicians, you have to be in physical good shape too.
Exactly.
Yes, yes, exactly.
They call it the sport of the arts.
Ah, very good. Now I understand that we have a caller on the line, so this sounds like a good place to take a break and invite our caller to the table. Caller,
Wonderful.
Thank you for calling in. Questions or comments for us this evening?
Mayor Longrie, I always enjoy your show. Thanks for doing so many shows on music and being such a supporter of music, because I think it's, like these gentlemen say, very important. I don't know if I seen you on a show where you were actually conducting. You were like the guest conductor for the 3M orchestra. Could you talk a little bit about that? And the other thing I have to mention is that when I see so many elected officials always going after music, always threatening to cut music programs, the way you keep supporting is refreshing. Even our member of Congress, Betty McCollum, she's initiating cuts, I think, in all kinds of military marching corps and bands. So thanks for your support of music and these drum corps.
Very good. Well, thank you, caller, for those comments. Okay, well.
You know, we did a fundraiser not too long ago where we invited members of the Minnesota Red Bull band to come and share with us their experience in Iraq. And I have to say it was an eye-opener to me. And as we look forward here on Friday to Veterans Day, I'm so glad the caller mentioned the importance of our military bands. And one of the things that they shared with us, and maybe we'll get the Red Bulls to come and talk about their experience,
that
because
would be
it's
great.
a very powerful story. But one of the things they talked about was learning the new Iraqi national anthem and the importance of how that plays into the hard work that the Iraqi people have to do right now in terms of rebuilding their country, in terms of coming together as one society. And here was this American band that was teaching the Iraqi citizens their own national anthem and teaching them how to sing it and perform it, and how proud these American soldiers were to help be a part of this healing in this process. And so I think the caller's exactly right when we talk about the importance of music, and when we talk about our investment as a community, as a society into music. It goes far beyond allowing people just to do their hobby. It's about our common bonds as a society. It's about how we reflect our pride in our country, and in the case of the Red Bull, how we help a country really through some very difficult times.
And I think the idea that, music knows no language boundaries. You may not understand how to speak a certain language, but you hear the music, it gets you, because it's different. It's something that you can understand. You can feel the beat. You can feel how it makes you feel. And you can share in that even if you can't speak each other's language.
Absolutely. Very powerful.
Yeah, very good. I'm so glad that we were able to talk about that. Now, we've gotten up to the point of the competition. Tell us a little bit about the competition. And then I think we're going to play some video from it, but then when we come back from that, talk a little bit about maybe some of the frame of mind of some of the players, or even of yourselves, when when you were just crossing your fingers hoping that you had won.
Well, this is a very interesting challenge for us. Most of our competitors are on the East Coast. Our drum corps associates, the all-age drum and bugle corps, are traditionally located in the East Coast. And Minnesota Brass started going out, what, in the early 80s,
Yes,
Scotty?
yes.
And we started going out to compete against them. And for a long time, there's sort of a joke in our organization. We sort of got patted on the head, thanks for coming, you didn't make finals, go back to Minnesota. And then after a while, we started making the top 10, and we said, hey, we're pretty good at this. Well, actually, I skipped a step, and that is the years where we were in the top 10 and out of the top 10, in the top 10 and out. And then for a long time, and even when I was marching, I remember a friend of mine saying, oh, you're going to go out and get your 4th place again, aren't you? It just felt like we were sitting there in 3rd or 4th place for a long time. And then 4 years ago, really surprised to the organization, we came in 2nd place. We were the silver medalists. We beat everybody except for one corps from Pennsylvania. And over the last 3 years, we have stayed in 2nd place. And that corps from Pennsylvania was on a 6-year undefeated streak where nobody had beaten them. They had won 6 championships in a row. And we had come closest. We had been in 2nd place for 3 years running. And so that brings us up to this year, and we traveled out to Rochester, New York, where we've had the finals for the last couple of years. And as I said, you know, we knew our scores were doing pretty well, and there are 2 different competitions. There's a semifinals competition, which determines who the top 10 are and what order they'll perform, and then the championship competition the next night. And the corps was just fantastic on semifinals night. That's the performance we're going to see in just a few moments. And they just were so confident and so controlled and did a marvelous job. And immediately after we perform, they take a picture of us. So we go backstage and sit on these bleachers. And as the photographer was trying to get everybody organized, the public address announcer came on with the scores. And so all of our members had to tell the photographer to be quiet because we had to hear the scores. And that's when we found out that we were the first corps in 6 years to defeat the Reading Buccaneers, and that we had actually won the semifinals competition, and that we would be going into championships seated as the #1 corps.
Wow, that's
so
amazing.
it was very exciting. Our members that night, our members came back to the hotel, and there were other drum and bugle corps staying at the hotel, and they just received a standing ovation as the buses arrived and everybody headed up to their room. Everybody was applauding and celebrating what our members had done.
Yeah.
So then on Sunday, we had a really great rehearsal. It was a very relaxed day, a very focused day. We knew we had some areas that we wanted to improve on. And
Very hot day.
A very hot day. Kept threatening to rain all day, but it held off. And then our finals performance was equally as great as semifinals. They did a fantastic job, and we were very, very proud of them. And finally, for the championships performance, they have all the drum corps come back onto the field. They all line up. It's quite a production. And as soon as the drum corps started heading out on the field, the heavens opened up. It was just a torrential downpour.
Oh my
and
gosh.
just started pouring rain. And eventually they moved through the scores, and we found out that we had won. And it was just a very memorable moment, standing in the rain with all these folks who had worked so hard to come to this point.
So in other words, you folks are out there rain or shine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This is not just a fair weather endeavor, that's for sure. That's for
right.
sure.
That's right.
Now we do have some film footage, and I believe that this is about what, 10 minutes in length or so?
So this is our full 2011 production. It's called Valhalla. And one of the things that Minnesota Brass has done over the last few years that we're very proud of is that we have been mixing genres of music. So you're not going to hear just one type of music. You'll hear various styles and various kinds of music being played. The other thing we did this year, which was a bit of a departure for us from previous seasons, is we told a very literal story. So as you watch this, you're going to be able to see the Viking ship arrive with the oars and with the shields and the the big mast and the sails. You'll see our Viking king invite all of his soldiers off of the ship, and then they will kneel for a brief moment and prepare for battle. They'll pray for guidance as they prepare for battle. Then they'll undergo this very aggressive scene, which is their battle scene. And our lead character, the king, will actually die. And so you'll see him right in the middle of the field, just collapse over dead. And then he'll be carted away in a very slow piece where he's being taken away in his funeral pyre. And eventually he's taken to Valhalla, which of course was the heaven of sorts for the Nordic, the Viking soldiers. And there the Valkyries, who are now all in white, will greet him and will welcome him to Valhalla. And not surprisingly, we will end with music by Richard Wagner, the Ride of the Valkyries. So it tells a very literal, very straightforward story, which is a lot of fun.
Well, that's very good. Well, I know we're all looking forward to it. So let's take a look, and we'll come back in about 10 minutes when it's all done. So let's go on.
Presenting their program Valhalla, please welcome from St. Paul, Minnesota, Minnesota Brass. Are the judges ready? Drum majors Amanda Nelson and Nancy Terry, is your corps ready? Minnesota Brass, you may take the field in DCA preliminary competition. Minnesota Brass from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Award-winning performance. Excellent. Now, while we were watching that here at the table, Scotty, you were talking a little bit about the snares and how they all sound as one. Talk about that a little bit.
A lot of practice, a lot of rehearsal time. Now, point out that the junior corps that Eric had mentioned before, where the performers age out at 22, they are essentially on the road for 10 consecutive weeks during the summer. These kids cannot work. These kids go on to be band directors. They put it on their resume by marching 1 or 2 or 3 years with one of these famous, like the Cavaliers or the Garfield Cadets or somebody like that. And they practice all day long. They eat, sleep, on the road, perform, and practice. That's all they do for 10 solid weeks. And perfection is ultimate. With us, we practice once a week, starting in January, and we have weekend camps on occasion, and this is the final product. We're pretty proud of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Particularly with some folks that are in their 50s, too. Not 18.
Right. Well, and we have talked about this before, is that the folks that are in the Minnesota Brass, you know, they have other things going on in their life. As you mentioned, you know, you're not, you know, practicing every single day as a group. You know, you've got other things going on. You've got your job, you've got family, this, that, the other thing, and yet there's that dedication to getting the job done and doing it in such a way that's not only fun, but really quite beautiful.
Yeah, you know, it's a tremendous commitment that our members make, and it's interesting because I'm working right now on our schedule for 2012 and every rehearsal day and every weekend camp that Scotty mentioned, and we count every day. I mean, because of what you said, because we know we expect our members to do so much, and because they have families and jobs and lives, you know, any time that I expect somebody to show up at 6 o'clock, I have to think twice about that, because people are coming from work, or any time that we expect people to do something during the weekday, that's a challenge for us. So we have to be very, very thoughtful about how we use our time and how we schedule our members' time, because it's very precious when we're all able to be there together at the same time.
And what has really impressed me as well in the past when we've talked about this is that, you know, the people who are involved in this, that a lot of the funding of what they do is coming out of their own pockets. It's not like that you just, you know, say, okay, we're going to go so-and-so and they're just going to give us, you know, a bunch of money. That's not how it works.
No.
So I think that we should talk a little bit about that funding piece, about how Minnesota Brass is funded. And I understand that there's an opportunity, because Minnesota Brass is a nonprofit organization, that there's an opportunity that if there's folks out there who are thinking, you know what, they would like to help out with this, there's a way they can do that. Well, let's speak to that.
That's absolutely right, Diane, and you're right. Every single one of our members pays to do this. They pay several $100s to participate in Minnesota Brass and be a member, which means those of us who are on the board and on the administrative team have a lot of work to do as well to raise the funds and to get all of the resources that are required to put an organization like that on the field. This is a totally volunteer organization. We do pay some of our creative staff a very small amount, especially compared to the number of hours they put in, but we rely on donors. We rely on our friends, on our alums, on people who may be watching today who have a passion for drum corps and think it's exciting. And like many nonprofits in Minnesota, we're going to be participating next Wednesday, on Wednesday, November 16th, in Give to the Max Day. And this is just a really special opportunity. It's special for Minnesota Brass, but it's special for a lot of nonprofits in Minnesota. This is the third year of Give to the Max Day, and it's an opportunity for nonprofits from all across the state, arts organizations and human service organizations and social service organizations, to raise as much money as they possibly can in one 24-hour period. Last year, more than $14 million was raised, and it's just an amazing demonstration of what makes Minnesota special. And Minnesota Brass is going to be competing. We're going to be in there. There are some prizes that are awarded to the nonprofits who raise the most money. And so we're going to be doing our best to win some of those additional grant dollars and some of those additional resources that are available. But it's Wednesday, November 16th. You have to make a gift online. It's givemn.razoo.com. And I'm sure a lot of people will probably be seeing some more press about it. We're just a few days out, but a really exciting opportunity, not just for Minnesota Brass, but for many, many nonprofits in Minnesota.
Exactly. And for our viewers out there, if you didn't have your paper and pen handy quite at the right moment, I happen to have that email address here that I can, or website address rather, that I can give you once again, because I think this is pretty important, because many different nonprofit organizations are participating in this, and certainly this Minnesota Brass, you've been listening and hearing about what they're up to and what they're doing, and you know what they're about anyway. But that website is www.givemn.razoo, which is razoo.com. So that's www.givemn.razoo, which is razoo.com. So,
and once people go to that website, there's a big box in the top that says, what nonprofit do you want to support? So you could type in Minnesota Brass, or you could type in any of your favorite nonprofits, and that'll take you to a special page for each one of those, and you can make that contribution. And of course, if you're able to do that on Wednesday, November 16th on Give to the Max Day, then you help that nonprofit compete for some of these additional prizes.
Yeah.
So it's a really exciting opportunity.
And you had mentioned that this is the third year for this, correct?
That's right. That's right. And they've tried, the first year they did it, it's interesting. The first year they did it, they said, we're going to do a matching gift. And so many people participated that the matching gift sort of went just so much faster than they expected. And ever since then, they've been playing around with different ways to provide grants and awards and prizes to different size organizations. This year, and part of the reason why we're excited about this, is they are separating out the large nonprofits, the Guthrie and Minnesota Orchestra, and places that have really professional fundraising opportunities. They're separating those, and they're separating the colleges and universities. And so the small nonprofits like Minnesota Brass, that are all volunteers, will be competing against one another. We won't have to compete against Minnesota Public Radio or against Minnesota Orchestra to win some of these prizes, which is really exciting, because it makes it a lot more possible.
Well, that's right. I think that sounds like an excellent way to channel the efforts, because again, if you are all volunteer organization, it is totally in a different category than NPR,
Right.
and this is great. That's a wonderful way of doing it.
And I forgot to mention, Diane, on that, we mentioned earlier that Minnesota Brass has 4 performing ensembles. Well, one of our ensembles, Mini Brass, was selected to help kick off the live events that are going on at the Mall of America on Wednesday, November 16th. So all throughout the day, on Give to the Max Day, there's going to be all sorts of activities and interviews and performances at the Mall of America. And the very first one at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, November 16th at the Rotunda in the Mall of America is going to be Mini Brass.
Wow!
And so we're very excited about that. They're going to help wake everybody up with a little bit of brass and a little bit of percussion, and then that full day of activities in the Mall of America will be off and running, and again, more and more nonprofits will be participating and making their opportunity to share their message with other Minnesotans.
Right, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that if there's any of our viewers out there who are typically like to go to some of the other mall areas where they do some of their power walking and whatever, maybe this would be an excellent day to change their place of where they do their power walking and go to Mall of America. You have to drive there, but you get there, or maybe take the bus or the train or whatever, but then you can go down there, do your power walking at the same time when you're listening to all the music. Now imagine that for an opportunity.
It's hard to listen to this kind of music and not want to get up and move around.
Yeah,
so.
that's why I was thinking about that would be absolutely the opportune thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, we, of course, have a screen that we want to show our viewers because you do have on the calendar a couple of events coming up in 2012. So it's never too early to let our viewers know they need to save those dates and mark their calendar. We'll probably have another show or so before then and talk about these events, but we at least want to make sure that folks do have it on their calendar. So go ahead and tell us about the two events that are coming up in 2012 that are on the calendar so far.
Yeah, there are two that we know about so far. Both of them are outstanding drum corps events. If you liked the video that you saw, then these evenings are going to blow you out of the water because there's even more groups performing, and they are some of the very best drum and bugle corps in the country. The first is on Saturday, June 23rd, and that's the show in Woodbury. Last year was our first year in Woodbury, and I have to admit, this was my first year down at that high school, and it is absolutely gorgeous down there, and a wonderful, wonderful facility for a drum corps show. And so that's coming up on June 23rd. That's a Saturday evening in Woodbury. What a great way to spend a summer evening with a family. There'll be about 6 or 8 drum and bugle corps there, and we're really excited about that. But then the big show, which we have hosted for the last 3 years, is scheduled for July 14th. It's at the TCF Bank Stadium at the University of Minnesota. It will feature all 23 of the world's finest drum and bugle corps. These are the groups that Scotty was referring to earlier, who tour around the country all year long. They will all descend on Minneapolis to perform on Saturday, July 14th, 2012. And we will perform as well with them, which we're always excited to be able to share the stage with such incredible performers. So 2 huge events coming up. And one more plug.
Yes.
I mentioned that Give to the Max Day yesterday. We're, as one of our incentives, we're giving away a pair of tickets to that July 14th show. So if you want to be on the 50-yard line and in primo seats for that show, well, everybody who gives a gift to Minnesota Brass next Wednesday on November 16th will be entered into our little drawing, and some lucky person is going to wind up with the best seats in the house for DCI Minnesota.
Wow, that's incredible. That's great. And I'm thinking if we put up the save the dates one more time, we also have the website that is on that screen as well, because at that website then folks can go there and they can find out more about these events and other things that you folks are doing, correct? That's right,
DCI.org, that stands for Drum Corps International. DCI is the sanctioning body that puts on these tour events throughout the summer, and there will be links to the tickets and links to everything you need to know is located right there, and you can gain more information. Or if you're traveling throughout the summer, you can see all the other cities that the drum corps are headed to this summer. So it's a lot of fun to kind of, I go to that site a lot in February when it's cold and snowy here. It's fun to think about summer and drum corps and green football fields.
Exactly. Scotty.
Yes, I just want to point out, we put that screen up one more time.
Yes, okay, put up, let's take a look at our screen. Go ahead.
There are 2 high schools in Woodbury.
Yes.
Where this show is conducted is at the new East Ridge High School in the south end of Woodbury.
Yes.
So River City Rhapsody in Woodbury is at East Ridge High School. Make note of that, June 23rd. And because there's so many Minnesotans that are transplanted from other parts of the country, I just want to real quickly run down the lineup of corps if we have a couple of minutes.
Oh, here. By all means, go ahead.
And for some folks that live formerly in La Crosse, Wisconsin, the La Crosse Blue Stars are going to be one of the competitors. And then also the Blue Coats from Canton, Ohio. So if you're originally from Ohio, you might enjoy watching the Canton Blue Coats, which are 3rd place finishers for the junior corps circuit. Absolutely fabulous corps. And then the Madison Scouts, everyone's favorite from Madison, Wisconsin. And this corps is probably 70, 75 years old, originally a Boy Scout group, and now considered one of the top 10 corps in the entire country for probably 40 years now. And then we have the Spirit of Atlanta from Atlanta, Georgia. So if you're from the Deep South and you've transplanted to our snowy north, you'll enjoy watching the Spirit of Atlanta. And the Glassmen are from Toledo, Ohio. So now, as we said, they're from all over the country. And then here's one of the favorite corps of time, the Troopers from Casper, Wyoming. And they kind of descended a little bit. They went off circuit for a couple of years. Now they're back again. and they're wonderful. And then the Pioneer from Milwaukee, and again, the Minnesota Brass will be there, along with another all-age corps from St. Peter, Minnesota, and that's the Governors, who also are world champions in their class. So we've got a very strong lineup, and we're really happy to present that. We're producers of that show. Minnesota Brass is one of the producers of that show, so we're very pleased to be able to present that to our Twin City fans.
Very good. And I do want to say again that we really appreciate the folks over in Woodbury being able to help get this program into the Woodbury area, to be able to let folks know what's going on at the East Ridge High School there, that this event is going on. So it's something that families, people of all ages can enjoy, that's part of the community, part of what's going on at the high school there, and it just keeps it all alive.
That's right. And you know, another great way to stay informed with the summer activities and the new season, like every other organization, we're on Facebook, and so we'd love to welcome some new fans and some new friends on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Minnesota Brass, or just put Minnesota Brass into the Facebook search. And when you become a fan or a friend of the Corps, then you'll get our updates, which will include every show we perform in and all of the opportunities during the summer to keep track of Drum Corps across Minnesota. So a really easy way to stay informed as to what's going on.
That's a great idea. So are you on YouTube also?
We don't have a lot on YouTube right now. Your best bet is Facebook, or you can just Google us and find our website as well, minnesotabrass.org. But we love using Facebook because, of course, it's so quick to be able to get messages out and tell people what's coming up during the summer.
And I think that also is, again, part of using all the technology and everything that's available to you, that while your organization has been around for 65 years, you are growing and developing and just moving forward into the future, right along with Facebook and everything else. Some things are ageless, aren't they?
That's right. That's right.
So very good. Well, we're about to the end of our program. We only have about a minute left. Any last words of wisdom?
Well, Diane, I just want to thank you for having us on the show, and as our caller guest mentioned earlier, thank you for bringing forth arts organizations. You know, it's just such, it constantly amazes me what volunteers are able to pull off. I mean, you look at this organization and what we're able to do, and it's all because people are committed to this art and because they're committed to one another. And it's wonderful to have the opportunity to share this time with you, and that you showcase so many arts organizations.
Well, you know, it's a lot of fun, and I know that certainly Scotty will want to come back here again. I hope you do too.
I can't
Eric,
wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I know that our viewers will always be returning, because that's why we've been here for 9 years, because people like to watch the program. So I want to thank both of you for being on the program. And I want to thank our viewers out there for being watching the program this evening. And we'll be back again next week with a new topic. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
There's Max.
Oh, yeah.